We are now going to be joined by a guy who knows a little something about coaching in the NFL to help us break down everything that happened in the AFC and the NFC championship game and more. He is former head coach of the Tennessee Titans and the LA Rams, Jeff Fisher. We bring in Coach Fisher now. Coach, first question I want to ask for you is, do you think people who have played and coached in the NFL are more impressed by Tom Brady than your average football fan who has done neither is? In other words, are you guys even more astounded by a guy going to 10 Super Bowls than the casual fan is out there who is listening to me right now, because you know even more so than the average fan does how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl?
Well, it really is. Clay, last night after that game was over, before the second one started, just as Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are getting ready, Jim Nantz said something along the lines of, there are just not enough superlatives to describe what Tom Brady has done. And I think everybody agrees. And, there's a fan base out there, a younger fan base out there that probably doesn't remember him early on in his career. But you say this will never be matched again, and then you watch the second game last night, you think, oh, my gosh, Patrick Mahomes, my goodness. I mean, maybe he will, but this was just really, really impressive what he was able to do throughout, and it just speaks volumes. I mean, when you get tidbits here and there, from guys that have played with him in the past, and, even guys that have gotten together with him this year. I mean, even I think they referenced a young receiver that had gotten together to go throw at the park or something at a high school, and he didn't sleep all night long because he was going to go out and run routes for Tom. And it's all about that. It's astonishing what he was able to accomplish. And in that game, it's hard to pull for one over the other. Aaron deserves it, in my mind, as much as anybody else. But for Tom Brady to change teams, change addresses, and go on the road 3 times, go to Green Bay and beat Aaron Rodgers, is playing really, really well, and play in another game. I mean, it only makes sense that only Tom Brady at 55 years of Super Bowls would have an opportunity to play in his backyard. It's really impressive what he's done.
What is Brady doing now that looks different to you from a coaching perspective than what he might have done when you were preparing for him? You started basically, going head-to-head with him in the early days of the Brady level of dominance. What do you think he's doing better? How is he different now than maybe he was 15 years ago or 10 years ago?
Well, I think if you look at games, and I haven't studied the numbers, but Clay, I think the ball's going so much further down the field now. I remember, 6-7 years ago, your offensive coordinator would say, "Hey, coach, I want to take a shot." And, "All right, yeah, take a shot." Everybody's taking shots every snap. And the thing that's impressive to me, and I think, there was some conversation, at the end of last year and prior to him joining, Tampa Bay, well, how's the arm? Because I remember preparing way back when I was hearing stories about Dan Marino was having some arm strength issues early on in the season, and then we were prepared for him later on in the season. I hadn't seen him play, and I watched it. I tell you what, oh my gosh. You felt bad for Dan because the arm strength just disappeared overnight. There's no evidence whatsoever of Tom, having any deficiencies in his game right now. I mean, the ball's going down the field. He's got a great group of guys to get to. And, I think over time, and people say this at the position, but it really slows down. If there's a mistake, he knows exactly what the mistake was, and as opposed to 10 or 15 years ago, if something happened on the field, go, gosh, I don't remember what happened, or I'm not going to say Sam Darnold and I'm seeing ghosts, but he's in so much more command of everything, and he just understands offense and defense and the whole thing, and where his guys got to be. So it's just really impressive. I think it's going to be a great matchup, and we got a couple weeks to wait on it, but it's good. And again, I'll take this opportunity right now, Clay, what an amazing job the NFL did with respect to the virus. I
Yeah.
mean, that is not an easy task, and I know these games are different. You know these games are different, and you probably talked about hundreds of times about the difference in the games in the stadiums right now. And you heard other coaches throughout the season. It's just not the same. It's just not right. But the NFL makes it look like it is. I mean, this truly was a championship weekend yesterday, and it's football at the highest level, and things are happening that normally happen in these games. And I think from a fan's standpoint, the fans are really, really fortunate that the NFL had the leadership that it did, in addition to the Players Association, and then everybody associated in the medical field, the experts, to be able to pull this off is quite impressive.
Would you have ever believed before the season started? I mean, I do think it's a remarkable accomplishment for the NFL to not only get to this point, but to have managed to do it without missing a single game and to now be on schedule for the Super Bowl to be played. Every game has happened. You would think, hopefully, we won't have any major issues now with 2 weeks till that one happens. It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I remember after the draft, and then they the league start talking about what they're going to do, and and then we're going to start on schedule and da 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 da. And I was a little bit concerned because they did an amazing job pulling the draft off, for one. But I thought maybe they were getting a little bit cocky, if you will, after pulling off the draft, going, okay, we got the draft, now we're going to do this. This won't be. But man, I mean, they did it. I mean, not a game. I mean, yeah, they got to move some around, and they did that, and and everybody understand why it was going on. I think we had some games on Wednesday, didn't we, or something like that.
Every day of the week, Coach. They played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this year in order to stay on schedule all 7 days.
But it's amazing that they can do that and partner with with the networks and everybody and and everything associated with putting the game on. You're talking about officials and you're talking about first responder. You're talking about everybody associated with the production, and they pulled it off. So really, hats off to them.
When you went to your Super Bowl with the Titans, can you imagine what the advantage would be, or how would you assess it, to be able to play in your home stadium, which we've never seen in 55 years or 54 years? Now we're in the 55th year of the Super Bowl. What sort of advantage do you think Bruce Arians and the Bucs have to be able to go back home? I'm sure they're already back home getting their game plan, relaxing a little bit. But to be able to play and practice literally next door to the stadium, how much of an advantage is that?
Well, I mean, the first part of this question was when we had ours. Well, it would have been a tremendous advantage because, for this reason, there was only 1 week, remember, between the championship game and the Super Bowl.
That's right.
We didn't have that. That was the last time that happened. And so, probably unfair of me to answer that question, but, for obvious reasons. But, could you imagine them going back home and playing at home next Sunday?
Yeah.
But still, there's clearly advantages. I mean, these guys, now you have to. We don't know where they are with respect to COVID and to is there going to be a new bubble and things like that? But going home and not having to pack up and not having to travel and working out of your own locker room and your own facilities, it certainly makes a big difference. But I don't know. The way Kansas City's playing right now, I don't know, they'll be talking about that, after the first couple of series. But it certainly will be an advantage for the players, their families. I remember, when we came back, Clay, and you remember this. I mean, we went down to Jacksonville, came back, had we circled the stadium, and there were 40, 50,000 people there. We went back to the facility and had meetings. Yeah. Because the players had to leave the next day, and we had to stay, a week in advance with respect to, tickets and hotels and travel and transportation and families and all that kind of stuff. That's not their issue. This is all about football now. I mean, I think the league's done a great job with respect to, honoring first responders and so on and so forth with 7,500 tickets and, and that kind of thing. So, there aren't going to be the numbers there. I think the fan watching the game won't won't necessarily see the difference, but it is going to be a different environment. But it certainly is from a comfort level, from a distraction level. It's going to be a lot easier being that home team, the real home team in this game, first time in 55 years.
Patrick Mahomes, you mentioned him. What is his ceiling at this point? I mean, it may be Brady, right? I mean, and that might be unfair comparison to make with anybody, but 3 straight AFC championship games, 2 straight Super Bowls. The guy's still not 26 years old. Does he remind you of anyone that you have seen over the years, or is he already at his age and accomplishment level in a class of his own?
Well, I don't. Well, he doesn't remind me of anybody. I mean, I can't imagine, what he's accomplished at this point and the maturity level that he displays week after week after week, and the athletic ability that he has on top of the understanding of this game, and then having these rare instincts to be able to deliver the football, from any body position at any speed, in any position on the field to any other to any target with accuracy. I mean, it's just something that I don't think we've ever seen before. But I think out of fairness and respect to those that have come before him, I think he needs 5, 6, maybe 7 before you start talking about or comparing him to Tom Brady, because this is a double-digit appearance in the Super Bowl for Tom Brady.
We're talking
That's
to Jeff.
amazing to me.
We're talking to Jeff Fisher, coach of the Tennessee Titans, and I should say, I guess, the St. Louis and the LA Rams. When you watch a game now, like you watched the games yesterday, watch the Super Bowl, get ready. How do you watch them? Are you watching with any kind of rooting interest because you have friends who are on the sidelines that maybe you like more than others? Do you find yourself calling the game in your head? Hey, it's 3rd and 2. I'd probably be thinking this on offense. I'd be thinking this on defense. I know it's harder to see exactly what the offense and defense are in with the television feed, where you can't necessarily see the depth of the safeties or how exactly everybody's lined up. But how do you watch a game as a guy who has coached so many games over the years? Is it hard for you to not feel as if you're calling plays?
Well, yeah, not calling plays, but I'll watch the game. I think the best way to describe it, I'll watch it from a fan perspective. Oftentimes, I'm not sitting there, with my chin, in my hands and staring in front of the TV and not talking to anybody. It's
right.
Really, it's been my only opportunity to, in addition to the other opportunities that I've had. But I love watching games live. I look at, I'll watch the game. I'll watch the ball. I'll look at the defense. I'll look at different formations and things like that. But I think where I really tend to focus in is before the end of the half and before the end of the game, and watch those types of decisions, the clock management, the game management decisions, and things, and so on. Those are things that I pay, very, very close attention to. We had one yesterday that I personally disagree with, and I think a lot of people will, but we don't have all the information. But
you mean kicking the field goal late at the game for the Packers instead of going for it?
Well, yeah, but I'll put it to you in a different way. You took the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hand after 3rd down, and he never touched it again. Never touched it again. And so, that's, and hey, you can debate it, and we can go on and on forever. It just didn't feel right to me. Because Aaron Rodgers has the ball, and you're down 8, and you're gonna, it's 4th down, and there's plenty of time left. I just didn't. But anyway, I read some stuff this morning about, both from Aaron and from Matt, and it's just one of those things. It's a heat of battle, and it's emotions, and man, I'll tell you what, when you're a play caller and you're also trying to manage games, it affects it. And I've always said that, and I, never deny that. I defend that. I've just said that for years, that eventually it's going to come up. And hey, look, there's a lot of things. So they not been called for pass interference or what have you. It might have been a little bit different as well, but you just don't know. But I think, getting back to your original question, I'm going to watch games from a different perspective through different lenses because I've been in the game for so long, and I've seen a lot of stuff go on, and over the years, and penalties and enforcements and mistakes and those kinds of things, and rule changes. I stayed up on that. So I look at it through probably more sophisticated set of lenses than most people, because of my experience.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I want to ask you about that. Not particularly the decision, although I do think it was an interesting one to kick the field goal and not go for it on 4th and 8. But you've had to make a lot of those decisions on the sideline in your time as a head coach. When do you make a decision that you're going to go for it, right? Like, so one of the things that always frustrates me is when you see somebody take a timeout, and it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but it's like we can't make a decision up about what we need to do, so let's take a timeout and talk about it beforehand. But
and then there's the delay of game or the rush to get the playoff. Yeah.
That's right. And you have that scenario. To me, when you're driving in that situation and you're in a 2nd and 8, 3rd and 8. And I understand if, let's say you got sacked and you lost 10 yards and now it's 4th and 18 or something like that, that can change your thought process. But in the back of your mind, aren't you thinking once you know you're in a goal-to-go situation, hey, we're either going to go for this on 4th down or we aren't, barring some crazy decision in some crazy circumstance? Or in your mind, how did you make those choices?
Well, this is it. I mean, I think what you have to, most importantly to making a choice yourself, is informing your staff.
Right.
You got to let them know.
This is it. We're gonna win or lose.
It's a 4-down series. Yeah, and I'll handle the management after this. But in your mind, this is what you got to do. And I think one of the toughest things that a head coach can do to an offensive play caller, and I see it happen all the time, is you have a third, say you got a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 1, and all of a sudden, and it's not effective. You don't convert. Now you're looking at 4th and 1, and now you say, go for it. Well, he's scrambling, trying to get personnel on the field, and the play clock's running, and all that kind of stuff. If you just simply say, hey, man, we're in a field position here where you got 2 shots ahead of time. Yeah. Then he can set up he can set up the 4th down call. He can do what he wants. But so much to me, the situational work should be attempted to be done before Sundays, before kickoff. Whether that's the weekly stuff or the unusual stuff or what have you. But the more help you can give your play callers, the better off you are. And it's like, even I think as a head coach, even if you're even out there 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes, and you got to get a stop and get the ball back, and you got to use a timeout or whatever it is. It's nice to be able to tell your offensive staff, hey, get your guys together. If things go the way we expect them to, you're going to get the ball back with 1:42 left, and you're going to have 1 timeout and a field goal wins. And then when he communicates that to his players on the sideline while the defense is on the field, there's a comfort level there of knowing what's required in advance. And the more you can get across to the players prior to the competition. I mean, for example, if you work this and work this and work this in practice, it'd be like the Music City Miracle, for example. The greater confidence they have in executing the play. So the more situational stuff you can do prior to game, the better off you're going to be, and the more time you can give people to prepare, the better off you're going to be. It's that spontaneous reaction, or go for it type of thing, as I described. It's hard on play callers now. Here, and to add to that, if you follow that reasoning, then eventually the play caller is going to get so caught up in the play call itself that he's going to have difficulty managing the games. And if he is doing both, then he better have somebody in his ear that he can completely trust.
It's interesting. I want to get one more question for you and then bring you back, if I could, for a few more minutes to close out the show.
Sure.
But Tony Dungy, a guy I know you coached against, went on Twitter at the end of the first half and said, that may be the worst defensive design I've ever seen with 8 seconds and no timeouts left. Green Bay, I'm not sure how you play inside technique, man-to-man, and not just play zone and protect the sideline and the end zone. ? Amazing. A lot of people focusing on the end of the game scenario, but the end of the half scenario may well be where Green Bay lost this game because they put themselves in a position to be down double digits. What happened there, and how frustrated would you have been on the sideline if that had been your team giving up that touchdown to Tom Brady to go into the half down 21-10 on basically the final play of the half?
That would have been a nightmare situation in the locker room at halftime. That you have to address it immediately and put it behind you and go on. And hey, we're good. Da 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 da. But there's no way, and I agree with Tony. There's no way that should happen, especially with the amount of time. I mean, regardless of the time. I mean, you understand whether there's timeouts or not, and what they have to do. And then now they're coming out after they sent the punt team on. Now they're coming back out and they take a shot. To me, I mean, we can blame the technique, and you can blame. Not that I want to blame her, but the responsibility goes on the defensive play caller not to put the corner in that position.
No doubt.
You just don't put somebody in there. There's a different concept. There's a completely different configuration of defense, and I could probably give you 8 or 10 of them offhand that would avoid that situation. And that being, as Tony has told you, it probably is the worst thing you could possibly do. Now, we saw stuff, you saw stuff out of the New York Jets, and one of my former coaches and a friend, and Greg Williams, against Oakland. I mean, and he got fired the next day.
Yeah.
And so, but there's, that you just don't do that at this, especially in the championship game. But, no excuse. But, people who say, hey, emotions are high. It's different. It's a different game. As further you go through the playoffs, the greater the intensity level and the emotion is. And so it's the experience of guys that keep coming back over and over again because they understand that.